Reading supplement labels is not easy, it's not intuitive, so I want to go through a few little hacks. Welcome, I'm Dr. Mary Pardee. I'm so excited to be doing this course on supplements with you. We're going to be going through all things supplements, all the research, all the myths. We're going to be debunking things and really getting into the weeds. And I know supplements can be so confusing. They're a topic that the media likes to cover, and so we have to sift through all of this information and come out with what are the true facts. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm a naturopathic doctor and a certified functional medicine practitioner. My specialties are going to be three things. One of them is integrative gut health. So I treat all things in the gut, from irritable bowel syndrome to inflammatory bowel disease and GERD and colitis. I also focus on preventative medicine. So I work with people on longevity and preventing chronic disease. And lastly, I also focus on mental health because I think it's such an integral piece of holistic medicine. So I want to talk about why I decided to do this course. When you go to see a functional medicine doctor, sometimes you'll walk away on a million supplements. And I really believe that people should be able to get most of what they need through their diet. I think that some supplements can really help people. However, there's so much information out there on what supplement should you take. And if you listen to everybody that's out in the media, you'd be on a million supplements, which is often what I see in my practice. People come in and they're taking 10, 20, 30 supplements. Often what I'm doing as a practitioner is taking them off of supplements because I don't think it's right for them or it's not going to help them reach their health goals. And so really, I designed this course to sift through all of the research on supplements and what really works, what does it work for, and how do we want to start to identify what supplements are going to be best for you or for me. Transparently, I'm super skeptical about supplements, and this may come to a surprise as somebody who focuses on integrative medicine, but it really comes from my clinical experience, and I've put people on many different supplements. I've put myself on millions of supplements. I've tried it all, and what I really realized is that there's a few that work. They work for some people in some conditions, but there's a lot of them that don't seem to do much at all. And I think that's important for us to realize because my goal as a practitioner is always to help people feel better and do things that actually work. And so part of this course was for me to really dive into all the research around supplements and what we know and what we don't know. So as we're going through the videos, you may end up with this feeling of uncertainty or this lack of clarity or feeling like, wow, she said this, but then she said this from another study. And that's really because it's a reflection of the research. There's a lot that we still don't know about supplements, and that's okay. But as long as we know that we don't know it, then we can go forward with our decision based on that information. And on the other side, there's also a lot that we do know about some supplements, and there's some that are showing real promise in the medical research as well. So the goal of this course is really just to inform you, and then for you to take that information and to make your own decisions about what you want to do for your health with your doctor. So the real point is make sure you also work with your doctor on this. So this course is not designed to tell you what supplements that you should take and which ones you should not take. It's just education around the research around supplements. It's really important that you talk to your practitioner, your doctor, about what's right for you, given your family history, your past medical history, and your specific goals. A little bit about supplements. So these are some interesting statistics. 150 million people in the US use supplements. And almost 80% report daily use of supplements, and 10% report taking 5 or more supplements every single day. Supplements are there to supplement. They're not there to replace. So the name is very true to what they're intended for, but they're really there to supplement an already full diet. And this is an important piece because we don't want you to think that if you take, say, vitamin C, you don't have to get vitamin C in the diet. They're just there in addition to. If you look at one slide, this is probably the most important one throughout the entire course. And this is the fact that supplements are a small percentage of your overall health. I made this number up, but I gave it maybe a 2% of your health is due to the supplements you take. And I really mean maybe on that. 98% of your health is going to be determined by your lifestyle, things like exercise, sleep, nutrition, the foods you choose, how you manage stress, your relationships, avoiding toxins, things like alcohol and smoking, making sure your lab values are in optimal ranges, things like ApoB, cardiovascular markers, inflammatory markers like CRP, your thyroid, making sure that you can do everything from a health perspective when it comes to your lab work, as well as your mental health. So making sure that you experience joy in your life and make sure that you have a community and you feel supported. That really makes up 98% of your health in terms of preventative medicine. So when we go through this, we're going to get in the weeds and things may get confusing at times, and you may end up with a question of, well, should I take it or should I not? Just remember back to this slide that this is the 2% we're talking about. If you have the 98% in check, you're already ahead of the game. It's all too common. People come into my practice, and I'll give you an example, but let's just say Joe comes into my practice and he's really into biohacking, but he has type 2 diabetes and his coronary artery calcium score is 100, which is looking at plaque in the arteries of the heart. But he's asking me all these questions and is really focused on whether he should take resveratrol or NAD or, what he should do to biohack his health. I'll often listen, of course, and reply back with the fact that we need to focus on the foundations of health first. I don't even go into health hacks or supplements until the foundations of health are in place. This is because you're going to get way more bang for your buck by getting yourself out of diabetes, restoring your metabolism and your metabolic flexibility, working on your cardiovascular health versus taking supplements that may offer some benefit to certain populations. So keep that in mind as we go through this course. Let's get into it. So we're going to start with regulation. The supplements that we talk about, are they regulated at all? So there was an act that was passed in 1994 by the Clinton administration. It was the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. And what they came to the conclusion of is that supplements are regulated, but more like food, more akin to hummus than Humira, is the quote. Humira being a medication. And so what this means is that the FDA does not regulate your supplements. They are not reviewing all the supplement companies that come out, and they're not testing the supplements for us. Similar things are going to be done with drugs. So when a drug comes to market, they're absolutely regulated. It has to be approved by the FDA, and we don't have that for supplements yet. The FDA, though, as well as other agencies, they do have the power to identify, investigate, and prosecute unsafe products. So if they identify that a product is unsafe, then they can prosecute people. So there is regulation when it comes to that sense. However, they have to identify it in the first place. So somebody would have to call it in. There would have to be a formal investigation that takes place. And we just don't have the budget for that. And so there's no process to make sure that every supplement is screened and regulated. And that's why we really rely on third-party companies, which we will talk about. So I want to go through some of the certifications you may see on a supplement label. And these are the ones that we rely on for as much regulation or kind of reviewing the products as possible that's available at this time. The first one is a good manufacturing practice label, this GMP label. And this is really looking at more the overview of the facilities that the supplements are coming from. So when something is GMP certified, it means that the facility follows guidelines and standards established by regulatory authorities like the FDA to ensure quality, safety, consistency of products, including supplements. What it means is that there's audits of the production facilities that manufacture, package, as well as distribute dietary supplements. So when something has that GMP certification on it, it means that somebody is going through and reviewing the quality of the testing procedures for the raw materials used, reviewing the maintenance, the housekeeping, the cleaning, the sanitization procedures in the facility itself, reviewing the training programs, the SOPs, as well as the recall procedures of the facility itself. Now we're going to go into a few certifications that use the GMP but have things that are in addition to it as well. So the first one is USP, the United States Pharmacopoeia. This company is a third-party company. They test vitamins, minerals, fish oils, glucosamine, and melatonin products. They currently do not test things like probiotics and a few other things at this time. So when you see this seal on a supplement, it means that it contains the ingredients listed on the label at the levels listed. So they're testing for the potency and the ingredients being correct. It also means that it doesn't contain harmful levels of specific contaminants that they're testing for, and they're testing that it will break down and release into the body within a specific amount of time, which is important, so it's bioavailable, and it has been made using the GMP guidelines that are designated by the FDA, so the facility is inspected as well. The USP certification also means they do yearly reviews. So once you become certified, it's not going to stand forever. You have to keep up with it, and they're going to test that. So they're doing a yearly audit to make sure that the facility is still in line with the GMP standards. And they're also doing annual testing of the supplements themselves to ensure that the labels are correct for what is in the product, the strength, the purity, and the quality. They also mentioned they do off-the-shelf reviews. So they do nationwide sampling, totally randomly, of supplements to make sure that between the yearly audits, what is in the bottle is what is on the label as well, which is really important. Obviously, they're not going to sample everybody throughout the year because that would be too many to sample, but it's an additional safeguard that they have in place. This is really important to be starting to look to see if your supplements have some of these labels we're talking about, because like we said, the FDA is not looking at this for the supplements. The next one is the NSF certification. So the National Sanitation Foundation, it's another third-party company, and they're looking at things that are really similar to the USP certification. They're looking at what's on the label is actually in the bottle. They're doing a toxicology report for this one, which is really good. So looking for any toxins that could be harmful. They're looking at contaminants to see, are there other things in the bottles that aren't listed on the bottles, and they're regulating that as well. They're also doing the annual audits of testing the products as well as inspecting the facilities, similar to the USP certification. This is the most rigorous certification that we have. It's called the NSF Certified Sport Supplement. So the NSF Certified Sports Supplement, what that means is it's really tailored to athletes, and I'll use this in my practice with the athletes we have all the time, because if I'm working with an Olympic athlete or professional athlete, then they need to go by specific guidelines that are more stringent. So they can't contain any ingredients that are banned by WADA or USADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency and the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. And so when you see this seal, it means that all of the things in the NSF regular certification are there. So they're testing the products, they're doing annual reviews, they're making sure there's no toxins in it or contaminants. But it also means that it's free of 290 banned substances, including certain stimulants, anabolic agents, things that professional athletes could get in trouble for having in their system. They do annual testing of the contaminants, which would include ruling out that there's microorganisms or heavy metals in it. They're doing the label verification of the contents, make sure what's in it is actually in it. They're making sure there's not certain pesticides or herbicides in the product, and they're making sure that there's the right amount of protein and caffeine if it's listed on the label that is verified in the product. So of all the ones you're looking at, this is really the most stringent of the certifications, so keep an eye out for NSF certified sports products. Really important, definitely for athletes, but also gives an extra safety guard just when purchasing a supplement in general. So let's look at what's actually on supplements on the shelf. There's been a few research studies that look at to see, okay, if I pull a supplement from a shelf, is what's in it actually in it? In 2011, 73% of supplement manufacturers inspected by the FDA failed to adhere to one or more of the regulations in the GMP standards. That's 73%. It's a huge number. So people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing out there. 59% of tested botanical supplements contain plant species not listed on the label. So a big percentage were having things that weren't even listed as ingredients on the label. Studies comparing actual to expected concentrations of vitamin D3 in commercially available brands revealed potencies ranging from 9% of what was on the label to 146% of what is on the label. So either not much vitamin D at all or too much vitamin D, which can be an issue because vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, as we'll talk about, and can lead to toxicity. But, in summary, no, what's on the shelf is not always what you're taking. So that's why it's so important to definitely look for the certifications that are there. Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect because they're third-party testing companies, so it's a little bit of pay to play, but at least there's some regulation that's going into them when you have that stamp on the label. Types of nutrients. So as we go through, we're going to be talking about a lot of different vitamins and minerals, and you need to know some of the basic science behind them. So we have essential nutrients, and then we have non-essential nutrients. And what this means is that essential nutrients are required to be consumed in the diet because we don't make them in our own bodies. On the other side, we have non-essential nutrients, and those are things that we make in our bodies. So things like CoQ10, which we'll talk about, is a non-essential nutrient because you're able to produce it endogenously. There's 13 essential vitamins, including vitamin A, the B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. There's also going to be minerals that are essential to our health that we have to consume in the diet, things like magnesium that we'll discuss. And then there's essential fatty acids, which means that it is essential to consume them. We don't make those in the body either. And then we have the non-essential ones, like I discussed, and those aren't necessary to take into the diet because we do make those on our own. And then we have fat-soluble versus water-soluble nutrients. So your fat-soluble vitamins are going to be vitamins A, D, E, and K. Those are stored in the body, and because they are stored, you can lead to toxicity if you take too much of them. So we want to be careful about dosing, especially with those. And then your water-soluble vitamins mean they dissolve in water, and it also means that we pee them out. So more is likely not better because you may be just wasting your money after a certain point. Reading supplement labels is not easy, it's not intuitive, so I want to go through a few little hacks. When you're looking at the back of a supplement label, what should you be looking for? Number one, look at the serving size. So that's really important, and sometimes it's overlooked. If you look at the serving size, and you can see this is an example on the right here, where we have 2 vegetarian capsules as a serving size. If you didn't read that and you looked at all of the amounts of the different vitamins and minerals in it, and you were comparing it to another supplement that the serving size was 1, you may say, wow, this one has so much more in it, I'm going to go for this one. But you have to always take into consideration how many capsules is in that serving size, and does it make sense from that perspective. The dosage is the other thing you want to pay attention to. So, it's so common people come in and be like, I heard rhodiola is good, so I have this rhodiola supplement, and I'll look at it and be like, it doesn't have any rhodiola in it. It's such a small amount, you're not going to get the benefit that's in the research. So you want to make sure that the dosage that you're taking is the dosage that's been researched to be effective for whatever your goal is. There's also fillers in supplements, and fillers kind of get a bad rap. Sometimes the filler is totally necessary to stabilize the supplement, so they're not all bad. Fillers can be an issue more so with people that have allergies, so people that are celiac, wheat can sometimes be a filler, so that's something to look out for. Beware of proprietary blends. Proprietary blends means that a company has decided not to disclose to you how much of each ingredient is in it. That is a red flag for me. So I don't recommend any products that have proprietary blends in them. And the reason behind that is it's really a marketing scheme in my mind, where they're putting that it's a proprietary blend so another company can't go and copy them and make the same product, which I totally understand. We're trying to make money as individuals. However, when it comes to what you put in your body, you should know how much of what products you're putting in. So this is an example of a label that contains a proprietary blend of things like butyric acid and calcium propionate, and you don't know how much of each of those ingredients is actually in the substance. The 575 milligrams listed is just the combination of all of those ingredients together. And if you're going to be doing evidence-based medicine and looking into the research, you're going to know about how much you should be taking of each of these things, and you want to be able to match that to the label. Lastly, caution with kitchen sink supplements. And this is a slang that I use for supplements. When you look at the back of the label, they have 1 million ingredients in them. So we've all seen them, but they have claims of, just being beneficial for your health or doing X, Y, and Z, but they contain 1 million things, which means one of two things. It means you're either going to have to take 1 million supplements, meaning 1 million capsules of the product, because there's so few of each ingredient in it that you're not likely to get a benefit from it. And so I am much more prone to recommend a supplement that has 1 or 2 ingredients or supplements actually in it, because then you know how much of each you're getting, and they're more likely to be at the therapeutic dose to reach your goal. The delivery system of a supplement matters, so we want to make sure that we're looking at, is this a bioavailable supplement form, first of all. Bioavailability I'll mention throughout this entire course, but it's really the extent to which you're able to absorb the nutrient or the herb into systemic circulation. And so there's some things that have very poor bioavailability. Things like butyrate has a really low bioavailability. So you want to make sure the supplement manufacturer has taken that into consideration and has a solution for it. So I wouldn't recommend a butyrate supplement that doesn't have some sort of drug delivery system and hasn't been changed so that it has a better bioavailability. There's also going to be companies that market that it has this increased bioavailability because they've changed the structure of the supplement when it's not necessary. So they're using it for a marketing tactic is another thing that you'll see. We see this all the time with creatine, which we'll talk about. But when companies are, touting that they have more bioavailable supplement for a supplement that was already bioavailable before, then it can just be a marketing tactic in some instances. There's several delivery methods for supplements, of course. So we see liquids, we see lozenges, we see capsules, powders. All of these things are, number one, part of it is preference. So if you are somebody that can't swallow capsules, then you'll be looking for liquid versions of things. But also it matters what our goal is. So take, for instance, a cough drop. You want a cough drop in a lozenge form because you're targeting the tissue of the throat to soothe that tissue. Similarly, in my practice, we use things like DGL, which is there for treating reflux or esophagitis, inflammation of the esophagus or inflammation of the stomach. And because of that, a lozenge makes a lot of sense because you want it to start to dissolve in the mouth and coat the lining of the esophagus and then go into the stomach. What you wouldn't want for that type of thing would be an enteric-coated supplement. Enteric-coated supplements are things that will help to make it so it bypasses or doesn't degrade by the low pH of the stomach, the real acidity in the stomach, and it can get to the intestines. So you wouldn't want that for something like a throat-based supplement, but you would want it for something that you are trying to get into the small intestines. And so knowing why you're taking something and where you want it delivered is also really important to take into consideration. The RDA is something that we'll talk about with a lot of the vitamins as well as the minerals we'll go through, and it's the recommended dietary allowance. The RDA is put forth by the Food and Nutrition Board, and it reviews the literature to determine what is a safe as well as an adequate dose. So the RDA is the average daily nutrient level intake needed to meet the requirements of about 97% of healthy individuals in a particular life stage and gender group. It's usually not the highest level that you could take or the lowest level. It's something that meets around 97% of people's needs. I'm going to go through 2 truths and a lie. So I'll say them first and think to yourself, does this sound like a myth or does it sound like something that's true? The RDA represents optimal intake levels. The RDA focuses on preventing deficiencies, and the RDA varies across countries. So the myth that I just said was the first one. The RDA represents optimal intake levels is not true. The RDA is not looking at optimal intakes. It's only looking at adequate and safe. So keep that in consideration when we're talking about the RDAs for these vitamins. It is true that the RDA focuses on preventing deficiencies. That's why it's established. And the RDAs also will vary across different countries. So the United States sets its RDAs, but we'll see that other countries have set different ones. Adequate intake is the estimate of nutrient intake that is assumed to be adequate for the maintaining health in a specific population or group. And this is only used when the RDA can't be determined because we don't have enough scientific evidence. So the adequate intake you'll see often when we just haven't been able to determine an RDA yet. The tolerable upper intake level, the UL, is the highest average daily nutrient intake level likely to pose no health risk. And so they'll put that to say, don't take more than this because above this limit, you may have adverse things happen to your health. The daily value is what's listed on the back of supplement labels. So on the back of supplements, you won't see an RDA, you'll see a % daily value. And usually it's similar to the RDA or the adequate intake level, but for a daily value, we need one value, where the RDA may be a range of values depending on the population and the gender. So you'll see a % daily value, and that will be a percentage of what you're supposed to be getting in one day. The storage of supplements is really important. So you don't want to spend this money on these expensive supplements and then have them degrade or go rancid. And so most nutrients will degrade faster in the heat as well as in the light. So it's really important to store supplements in a dark cabinet. But the other thing is don't put them above the oven or above your microwave or toaster where you're going to be exposing them to heat on a constant basis. The other thing is humidity. The bathroom is not the best place to store your vitamins or minerals, so take them out of the bathroom cabinets. Find a cool, dark place that's away from humidity. There's some research study lingo that I'll be throwing around throughout this course. I want you to be aware of it and what it actually means. So RCT stands for randomized controlled trial. What this is, it's really the gold standard in research when we're looking at figuring out if something is effective or not. So it randomly assigns participants in the study to different groups to compare the effects of the different treatments. And the gold standard is that it's also placebo-controlled, meaning that they have one group who is taking an inert, null product that doesn't have any of the active ingredients that would be in the other group. So that would be a randomized clinical trial that's placebo-controlled. The other one is a systematic review. So these are great because, especially as doctors, but as practitioners, as people reviewing the medical research, we don't always have time to go in and read every randomized control trial on the subject we're looking into. So we oftentimes will then look for systematic reviews, which have already done that for us, and they have summarized the information that's available in the literature. So typically a systematic review will go in, they'll look at all the studies that are answering one question, and they will pick apart the studies and they'll tell you what's kind of wrong with certain studies, but then they'll give you a final conclusion to say, we do think that likely this is efficacious to then solve this problem. So for instance, they'll say things like rhodiola may be effective for the treatment of fatigue, making that totally up, but that would be an example of a conclusion from a systematic review. One of the gold standards for systematic reviews is Cochrane is a company that does these systematic reviews, so you'll see a few Cochrane reviews in this course as we go. Then one step further, we have the meta-analysis. So meta-analysis are so dear to my heart. I love them so much because they save us so much time. What a meta-analysis is, it's a statistical technique used to combine the results of the systematic reviews to give us a quantitative summary of what they found. So usually meta-analysis will be in a systematic review. Not all systematic reviews will have done a meta-analysis, but when they have, it's really nice because what they've done is they pooled the quantitative, meaning the numbers from all of these studies. They've then give you a quantitative summary of their findings. So it's a really handy thing to have to be able to see, okay, when you look at these 12 RCTs and we do a pooled analysis of their results, what answer do we get then? Determining the right supplement to take is so important. So how do you kind of sift through all the information you're going to get from this course with, of course, your doctor and decide, are any of these even right for you? So when I'm working one-on-one with my patients, the things that we're looking at is, what is your family history? What's your personal medical history? So what are you at most risk for developing when it comes to chronic disease? This is really like one of my main jobs when I sit with patients is looking through their whole history, looking through their diet, their exercise, their lifestyle, seeing where the holes are, and really trying to determine what's the most likely thing you're going to die from. And I know that sounds really morbid, but as doctors, it's part of our job to identify where are the biggest holes in your health, or where are the biggest weaknesses based on your family history. And so once we're able to determine that, then we're really able to start to individualize someone's wellness plan for them, including the supplementation that they take. And again, I will keep saying this, but that's the 2%, remember? So we're focusing on the 98% the majority of the time. But when we are considering supplements, we want to make sure it's in line with what would be most helpful to that person. You want to determine your goals as well. So you want to say, like, if you want to put on a bunch of muscle mass, then that's going to be a different supplement choice versus somebody who wants to focus on preventing dementia because they have a family history of it. And you want to talk to your doctor, talk to your practitioner. So make sure that what you're taking is not going to interfere with any of the medications that you're on. Make sure it makes sense for you. Make sure that there's no adverse things that could be going on based on everything else that you're doing in your wellness plan in general. So in summary, with supplements being so unregulated, we have to do our due diligence to figure out if things are even worth taking. So we have to figure out, is there research behind it? And then we also have to figure out which brand we should go for. So making sure you're looking at those certifications. This course is designed to do just that. So we're going to review a lot of the medical research, and we're going to review the most commonly purchased supplements out there. We're going to really get into the weeds, so sometimes it may get a little bit confusing, but we really want you to be able to decide for you, is it worth it, or is the supplement worth less? Because both of those are important to decide. I'll see you in the next segment.
Hey, I'm glad you enjoyed this video. We have more on the way, so click the notification bell below, and I'll see you in the next one.